And good morning, everybody. Welcome. Hot Takes, Goodman and Haertl. Bruce, I know when it gets cold outside, you tend to be old man that, yells at clouds. Now that it's going to be sweltering hot, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Alex and I were talking about it before we got going, that this week has been a good harbinger of things to come because it was, well, and you were out there on day one. It was freaking hot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty darn warm, and it was warm all 3 days. So it's just a little reminder of things coming up. And when we reconvene in about five and a half weeks, we will all be in the right frame of mind. Let's face it, it's been a very mild spring, but summer is here, next week, I guess. So let's go. I mean, it is June. We should expect some warm temperatures, for goodness sakes.
I want to tell you about the latest promotion at Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos up in Blackhawk, giving away a pair of Spider Cruisers or $15,000 in cash the weekend of July 18th, just in time for the Sturgis Bike Rally in South Dakota. Again, your choice, pair of Cruisers, 15 grand in cash. Get finals entries every 45 minutes from 10 a.m. until midnight during their daily cash drawings with a locked up jackpot of at least $100 or more. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, a family-owned casino that treats you like family. Time now for the lead.
The lead is presented by Sasquatch Casino, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Camp is over. Bruce, as you mentioned, we are gearing up for another set of practices, affectionately known as training camp. With that, what did you see in OTAs and minicamp that give you confidence heading into training camp?
I saw a Bo Nix who came back bigger and better, much more. I don't even want to say comfortable. Just a guy that is now moving into being a veteran, has a year under his belt. He's evolving as a leader, evolving as a quarterback. I think that was probably the biggest thing that I took away. But, Eric, I think it was the thing that was probably most expected by most of us. I don't think any of us really thought that Bo Nix was going to, back up or there was going to be a potential for a sophomore slump. Look, we're not playing games yet. I still don't think there's going to be a sophomore slump. I think this guy is going to get only better. The question is by how much. So I think the maturity of Bo Nix was certainly one of the more reassuring things that we saw, even in the short time that we saw it over the last 3 weeks. And then I would say the way that the rookie class is assimilating and is being, and as quickly you can start to see what the vision is with this rookie class, which I think is particularly impressive when you consider that 84% of this roster is returning. 84% of a playoff team roster is returning. And now you've got arguably, and I think you've got 3 guys that are going to be starters / high rotational players. One, the punter, is going to be phenomenal, but you have as many as 3 that can be starters, 5 that would be within the rotational definition of where they are. That's pretty significant when you stop to consider that you're only trying to complete 16% of your roster, and all of a sudden you've got some rookies that on rookie contracts that can be difference makers on this football team. So to me, those were the 2 things that I really took away from, other than the fact that there is just an overall air of confidence, of understanding, of familiarity, and all of the things that the good things that come with that kind of continuity of a staff being in its 3rd year. A lot of these guys are in their 2nd, 3rd year of this program. They know everything that they need to know. It's just a question of going out and doing it. So those would be my takeaways.
Let me throw 2 more things at you.
Sure.
You talked about the rookie class. All eyes on Jahdae Barrett. All eyes on R.J. Harvey. You and I, we like to occasionally catch a glimpse of Jeremy Crawshaw. Okay? To me, those are the top 3 guys we're all looking at. However, let's look at 2 position groups that, I'm not suggesting that they weren't lacking depth, but I think that we have seen some depth. Q Robinson, dominating. Now, maybe not the starters, but dominating. Playing great on the edge. Throw in DeAndre Tillman, who's, a young player in this league. And now you're thinking, boy, behind Benito and behind Jonathan Cooper, they've got some depth rushing off the edge, right?
Right. And Jonah Ellis now is back.
Oh, yeah.
And was at full speed yesterday, the last 2 days. So the depth that they have at that position is impressive.
Now, let me throw another position group at you. We know what Cortland Sutton can do. We know what Vele can do, even though he wasn't in minicamp. Mims is Mims, and you're expecting him to take a step. People have been buzzing a little bit about Franklin, that he's not getting yelled at all the time, but he looks improved and he's gained a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily a headline that a guy has gained 5 pounds of muscle. Sean Payton addressed it, but at the end of the day, Franklin looks better, but he looks more comfortable. I think that's probably the most
well said.
way to put it. Okay. With that, again, Jahdae Barron, RJ Harvey, Crawshaw, the guys who should make the biggest impact. But what about Pat Bryant, who looks comfortable as well? We in the media always seem to get caught up in, look at the depth at wide receiver they have. Every year, I don't know why, that always seems to be a narrative. And then they have really just a bunch of guys. Boy, this guy's really catching passes. Look at that route running. Look at those fluid hips. And, we have a number 5 wide receiver, and then the guy never plays.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But this year it feels a little bit different because of Vele and Sutton leading the way. We know that they want to use Franklin because of his speed. We saw what Mims can do in this offense later on in the season. But when Sean Payton throws the words Pat Bryant and Michael Thomas in the same sentence, he's not a hyperbole type of guy. He doesn't like to compare. And I'm not saying he is comparing them directly, but that's one hell of a compliment.
He is a player that it took a minute for him to kind of shovel out from underneath the number of wide receivers that are in that room that do look good, and you just enumerated them. And all of a sudden, with Devon Vele gone, and he'll be ready for the beginning of camp. It sounds to us like he had a little bit of a leg issue, but nothing alarming, at least not for Sean Payton. But man, these last 3 days, Pat Bryant has, we love that term, flashed, but he's done more than flashed. He's been very consistent in the way that he's gone about his business. We've talked about his size. We've talked about his hands. We've talked about his catch radius. We've talked about his ability to separate even without great speed. We've talked about his physicality at the line of scrimmage and his willingness as a blocker. You know how important that is to Sean Payton. He fits the mold for the Sean Payton type of receiver. Sean likes the big receivers that are physical, that can high point, and that are going to catch the dang ball. So he checks a lot of boxes. He was certainly Jahdae Barron was such a natural fit that you noticed him, but you took it for granted with him because he's just that kind of guy. It's like, this dude is going to play from day one, and we don't know where the hell he's going to line up on the field. We don't know where he's going to be. He could be anywhere.
Off real quick.
Yeah.
Jahdae Barron, and this is going to sound like a crazy comparison, especially because you could make the case I'm not even paying him a compliment, but it is a compliment. Jahdae Barron out there is like Pat Surtain out there. You don't really notice Surtain, do you?
No.
He's
hear
not
what
making a
you're
whole
saying.
bunch of interceptions.
Right.
He's not breaking up a lot of passes. He's just so damn good in coverage, the ball just never goes his way.
Yeah.
So you never need to look at that side of the field that he's on.
Right. I think where you will notice him is when they put him in the box and he's making tackles
Right.
in and around the line of scrimmage. He's
Right.
got obviously his speed is fantastic. So his ability to cover sideline to sideline in the run game in particular, I think will be, he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. RJ Harvey, we know about. The one thing that bounces off the page with him is how good his hands have been.
Yep.
And they have force-fed him balls in the air. He has caught a lot of passes here in the last month. But Pat Bryant is a guy that's he's been on the come, and all of a sudden, now when you watch him, it's like, damn, they're finding him. He's getting open. He makes good moves. And we haven't even gotten to see, he's the kind of guy that I think will be even better in pads than he is in shorts and T-shirts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think he will show his physicality and his willingness to block at the line of scrimmage.
Is it fair to say, from our vantage point, because fans have not been allowed to go, that we have had steady doses of, over the years, Melvin Gordon, and we've had our Javonte Williams and so on and so on. We can go back, the last 7 years or whatever
Yeah.
it is. That RJ Harvey just looks different out there.
Yep, he does. And that is a fair statement, and I would stand by it. He does look different.
His legs are like telephone poles.
Yeah, yes, he is.
Lower center of gravity.
Yes.
I mean, look at the picture that we're showing there. What you can see that is sort of shadowed is a little bit of a tattoo, which really goes right up his thigh. But those babies, like if he went to a cannibal campfire, they'd be gnawing on that leg for months.
Hadn't thought of it that way, but I suppose it's probably true.
That'd be one hell of a chicken wing that can feed not a family, but a tribe.
Well, look at the way that the running back room has now been transformed. Javonte Williams leaves in free agency, goes to Dallas. Then you get a draft where you know that they're going to go after a running back. We were thinking Ohio State. We were thinking North Carolina.
Right.
We weren't thinking, I wasn't at any rate, thinking about Central Florida. And all of a sudden, RJ Harvey becomes the guy that had been on the wish list, supposedly, of Peyton and Peyton. So they get their guy. Then all of a sudden, we're seeing him now over the last month. We see the strength, the low center of gravity, the explosive qualities, the quickness and the speed and the ability to change directions. We see him catching the ball out of the backfield, very sure-handed. They're going to use him a lot in the passing game. Oh, and then they go and get J.K. Dobbins, a guy that rushed for over 900 yards last year. Now, we know about his injuries. We know about his history, but he is coming off of a career year. He is all in on being the mentor to RJ Harvey, which is a huge thing. He understands his role, but I think he can also be a very vital piece to the puzzle in that running back room. So look how that room has transformed. We haven't even really talked much about Evan Ingram, but he seems to have checked the boxes. Now, he's a receiver, not a tight end. He's going to be listed as a tight end, but he is so far from a tight end that it's hardly even worth calling him a tight end.
Okay. Let's talk about Evan Ingram just for a second.
Sure.
So if he's going to line up as a wide receiver and this team wants to run the ball a lot, which they're going to be some heavy sets, who are you putting on the field? I mean, you can only put 11, and you're going to have 5 offensive linemen, and you're going to have 1 running back, and you're going to have a quarterback. So right there, that is 7 guys. You're probably going to want to have a tight end to block. Now you have 3 slots left. Who's out there? Sutton, Vele, Mims, Sutton, Mims, Ingram. Where does Troy Franklin fit into the mix?
Well, it depends on what they're trying to do, and we're going to find out a lot about this. I think
it's a good problem to have.
It is a good problem to have because I think the competition in the receiving room is probably the most high-pitched battle for time that we're going to see in July.
Okay, but let's think about this for a second. You want your number one wide receiver on the field all the time. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's that? Cortland Sutton?
Yes, I would say so.
Right now.
Yes.
When you have a weapon who's not going to line up a tight end, he will, I suppose. Maybe he fills that position. Maybe that's the joker that we're being told about. So my point is, if you want Ingram on the field all the time, don't you? Pretty much.
Not all the time. Probably not all the time, but he's going to be on the field a bunch. There's no question about it.
So that's 2 slots right there. That's 2 slots.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to be the third wide receiver out there? In theory, now you can line up Ingram as a blocker, I suppose, and then release him. It's clearly a good problem to have.
Yeah,
but I want Mims on the field a lot.
Yeah,
I do.
Sure.
Troy Franklin for what he could bring.
Yes.
We haven't even talked about Pat Bryant yet.
Right.
But then again, are we falling back into we're going to lead you towards the trap door and make you believe that the Broncos have all of this depth at wide receiver, and then we're disappointed again? Or is this real? Does Bo Nix, how much have his position group players, his skill position players, truly been upgraded?
I think they're better. I think they're much better in the running back room, and I think they're better in the receiving core.
Well, I want to address the running back room. It's funny because I think all of us were sitting there quietly during OTAs. And by the way, I found this just to be stinking hilarious. I was there for day 1 of minicamp, which was earlier this week. Sean Payton was asked about J.K. Dobbins. And so I stayed through Sean's press conference. I had to run. I had some things I needed to take care of business-wise. I hop in my car not even 7 minutes after Sean Payton was done.
Well, the story was breaking. Yeah, right.
Come on. Come on. I mean, 7 minutes later, just after Sean finishes up, suddenly they said, "Oh, JK, here's the piece of paper for you to sign." I'm not suggesting it was orchestrated, but doesn't it seem just a wee bit coincidental?
No, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
5 minutes later,
the timing was interesting because the story was literally breaking as we were standing there. I mean, right. that it was literally breaking. Broncos, of course, didn't confirm it until the next day, but we all know what's going on well before things are officially announced. I love the addition, and after talking with Dobbins in particular, dude has a real Denver Broncos feel about him, and we haven't seen him in any kind of drills yet. We've seen him stretching, working on the off field. He says 2 weeks, he'll be up to speed, ready to go in the system. He was very much looking forward to the summit that Bo Nix is having for the offensive skill sets. So that is going to happen here in the next few weeks. And I think it's all speed ahead. I love that. I love that running back room right now. And it begs the question, and Alex and I talked about this yesterday, it begs the question, who might the odd man out be? How many receivers are you going to carry, first of all?
Yeah.
Now, what about your running back room? You're going to carry a fullback. Michael Burton will be a part of this football team.
Right.
Sean Payton loves him some fullback.
Yep.
So that is going to happen. Plus Burton's so good in special teams. So who's the odd man out? It's not going to be Jaleel McLaughlin Jaleel McLaughlin's a good special teams player, right? So now you get down to Audric Estime, Tyler Bidet, and Watson.
Okay, I'm going to answer your question just by an observation. Before they signed J.K. Dobbins, and Sean Payton said it, this was really more about conditioning. It was really about the OTAs and minicamp. It wasn't as much about football as it was about conditioning. So let's not glean too much out of what we've seen in football, right? I was about, do you know where you're supposed to be standing on the field? Can you execute the play? And obviously you don't have to necessarily be going full speed on this. Estime, who was he taking snaps with?
Sam Ehlinger. He's with the threes pretty consistently.
Where's Jaleel McLaughlin?
Yeah. Jaleel McLaughlin was being moved in and out. But,
and then you have J.K. Dobbins, who's not going to be spending a lot of time with Sam Ehlinger.
R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins are making this team. That's a fait accompli. You got to figure out the rest of the puzzle.
Yeah.
I think Jaleel McLaughlin is making this team. So that's 3.
Because of special teams.
Yes, because of special team.
And here's the funny thing is that if they would have signed Nick Chubb, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind, Audric Estime should be getting change of address cards before the start of training camp and calling a moving company. But J.K. Dobbins, I don't want to say is more similar to Jaleel McLaughlin than he is Estime, but he is, because J.K. Dobbins is not a banger. Is he?
Well,
he's more of a catch the ball out of the backfield type of guy. Is J.K. Dobbins really the guy? I mean, listen.
He's a 5-yard per carry guy.
I understand that.
So, I mean, he can run between the tackles.
He can run between the tackles, but he's not a Nick Chubb bowling ball. He's not that guy.
Yeah, I would agree with that, probably. Right.
His game lends itself more to, I think, Jaleel McLaughlin, where he catch the ball out of the backfield. Has a burst to him as well. That's where there are similarities.
And I think
he's not a banger.
But he is a 3-down back.
He is. I'm just saying he's not a big-bodied banger. That's not who he is. And they won't have a guy like that, but maybe they don't feel they need a guy like that. What J.K. Dobbins brings to me, now that he is on this roster, is you have a pair of designer jeans that are going to look really good when you go clubbing, and R.J. Harvey. What they didn't have was that comfortable pair of jeans in their wardrobe that's totally worn in, and you feel good that you have them. So when you say signing J.K. Dobbins, about the running back room, how you feel about it, to me, it gives you peace of mind that you have a veteran voice in that room, a guy who's proven it at this level, a guy who appears to be healthy. You know that the ability is there, although he's not what he used to be. R.J. Harvey right now is the more talented guy. Let's not look at J.K. Dobbins and say, okay, they're going to go to the Super Bowl because of him.
No.
He is a piece that can help him get there, but he's certainly not going to be your workhorse. But when we looked at all the position groups heading into OTAs and into minicamp, it was a glaring need that they needed a veteran running back in that room. And to me, they took the best guy that was available. Unfortunately, all the guys that were available, for the most part, the top guys, were all littered and riddled with injury history.
Yeah. The one guy, Najee Harris, is intriguing in Vegas, obviously, in LA.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Here's my hot take for today.
Ooh.
Yeah. The Broncos will have 2 running backs with better than 550 rushing yards this year, which will be more than their leading rusher provided last season.
Okay.
I'll say that with some confidence.
Okay. Now, what I want you to think about as we go to break is this. So you're predicting minus injury, right?
Yes,
Injury,
of course. Right.
that Dobbins and Harvey will combine for 1,100 yards. What
Yes.
I want you to think about is what will they combine for receiving yards? That's next.
Ferguson's Heating and Cooling is the best in Denver, and their customers agree. Ferguson's has 165 five-star Google reviews, and here's one from Betsy. Highly professional, prompt, and honest. I switched to Ferguson's when I became aware my former company was trying to sell me a whole new system I didn't need. Ferguson's is an honest, working, family-owned business that'll give you a fair price, the highest quality parts and equipment, and they always show up on time. You can trust the Ferguson family like you trust your own family. Go to fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
Spice up your next night out at Nola Jane and Lodo. Authentic Cajun cuisine like andouille sausage gumbo with dirty rice, crawfish etouffee, as well as 6 different po' boys like soft-shell crab and shrimp. Come in before or after a game at Ball Arena. Host a party or party on their rooftop deck overlooking Market Street during happy hour from 11 a.m. to 5. Plus, Nola Jane caters, delivers, and the kitchen is open late night. Make Nola Jane your new favorite spot to eat, drink, and party like it's Mardi Gras.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a pair of Spider Cruisers or over $15,000 in cash the weekend of July 18th, just in time for the Sturgis Bike Rally in South Dakota. That's right, your choice, cruisers or $15,000 in cash. Get finalist entries every 45 minutes from 10 a.m. to midnight during their daily cash drawing with a locked-up jackpot of $100 or more. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, loose slots, great promotions, great food, and a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch in the DTC. Both locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook is a hangout bar or great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, the DTC, and coming soon to Parker. They are the sports bar.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. And don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corned bake. Man, you gotta try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver. Welcome back. Hot Takes, Goodman and Haertl. Want to tell you about Ferguson Heating and Cooling. I can tell you about them, but how about I read you one of their reviews, which I think says a lot about what this company is all about. This is a testimonial on Google from Betsy. One of the, by the way, 165 5-star Google reviews.
Wow.
And this testimonial really resonates with me. Highly professional, prompt, honest. And here's the key. I switched to Ferguson's when I became aware that my former company was trying to sell me a new system that I didn't need. And I must be honest with you, I hate it when companies try and do that. Let me tell you how the sausage is made at a lot of these companies, garage door companies, so on and so forth. A lot of the techs that go out to your house, they get paid a salary, but they get a commission when they sell you something that you don't need. They always want to upsell you, not this company. I was talking to Cody, who's the owner, and what he said to me was, listen, sometimes I know when our guys go out there, it's going to be a small fix, and for the trip charge, and I'm quoting him, I'm going to lose money doing this, but I am more than happy to do that to take care of the customer. In a lot of companies like this, it is a mandate in some ways. Do whatever you can to make sure that you sell them something so you can make money and we can make money. Not the way it works at Ferguson's Heating and Cooling. If you're looking for anything to be fixed right now, certainly for your HVAC unit or your furnace, when the winter rolls around, remember this website, fergusonsheatingandcooling.com, fergusonsheatingandcooling.com. Honest, hardworking, family owned, the best in the business, and their Google reviews speak for themselves. Time now for What's Trending.
What's Trending is presented by Ferguson's Heating and Cooling. Your family should trust the Ferguson family for all your heating and cooling needs, and you'll see why they have over 165 5-star Google reviews. Make an appointment today at fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
All right, so you said it heading into break, 550 for Dobbins, 550 for Harvey in terms of rushing, 1,100 total between those two guys. They need to do more than that.
Well, that's my minimum.
Minimum, okay.
I mean, that's my minimum.
How about receiving yards combined between those two?
I would say they need to be in the 700 to 800 yard realm. 750 is probably the running backs accounted for right around 500 yards of receptions a year ago.
Yeah.
And I think that they've certainly upgraded with Dobbins as a receiver. You know, RJ Harvey remains to be seen, but we think that he can be a weapon. I would say somewhere in the 700 yards plus range would be good for me.
Listen, you could take that number and extrapolate it any way you want.
Sure.
Okay. So let's say, for the sake of argument, in one game, Harvey has 80 yards receiving. And then you have another game where Dobbins has 80 yards receiving. Okay. But you only need to get to 700. That's not what I'm referring to. And I don't think that's what you're referring to either. It's the consistency of it.
Mm-hmm.
Each game, the running backs combine for 50 yards receiving. If they're doing that, and that's going to get you close to your number. 60 yards receiving is per game from the running backs, those two specifically. That's going to get you to about your 700, right?
Yeah.
Pretty quick math there.
Yeah. Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you. I do math every once in a while in that fundraising business.
Well done, Euclid.
But thank you. But I digress. Would you like to know the actual number? That'd be 720 yards.
There you go.
If you're wondering. I think it is. Although Alex will probably correct me, which is okay. But I digress. If you're getting 60 yards receiving from your running backs on average per game, roughly, you're going to win a lot of football games.
Yep. I agree. Yeah.
A lot of football games.
Yeah. And it will be like some of the questions that I think are natural to be asking now, and we will see as we move into training camp. How are they going to use the running back room? Is it going to be different than the way they have used it? How will the running game work in the way that they set up their offense weekly? I think we all understand that Sean Payton loves to throw the football. I mean, he loves himself a passing game, and they are going to throw the football. They're going to throw the football downfield. They're going to throw the football over the middle, but they will also throw the football in the flats. There's going to be a lot of wheel routes because there's some speed in this offensive backfield. But how are they going to use the running game? And they have options this year. They have options with the running game. They have options receiving out of the backfield that I'm not saying that heretofore they haven't had. They just have, I think, better options now to have a more complete kind of passing game with the receiving core than they've had for a while. So anything that gives them better opportunities to continue to grow this offense and diversify it, be more creative with it, because God knows Sean Payton will be creative with an offense.
Right.
And the more options and weapons that he has to be creative with, the better off this offense should be.
All right. We talked about earlier on in the podcast what we liked that we saw in OTAs and minicamp, right? We talked about the rookies. Is there anything that you took away from watching these practices to make you go, huh? Not overly crazy about the direction they're going, blank.
No, I don't think so.
Me either, except for one area.
Okay.
Except for one area. But that's because we haven't seen it yet.
Oh, inside backer.
You got it.
Yeah.
However, as I'm thinking about it, Drew Sanders had a difficult time getting on the field for his career. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Well, yeah, staying on the field for sure, right, with the injury, obviously.
But you also have Justin Strenad, who feels like got drafted, I think, in 1987. Feels like he's been around forever.
He's a survivor, man. You got to like the guy.
Right.
Yeah.
But they have experience at inside linebacker with a guy who can play. Maybe not necessarily your number one choice to be one of your starting two inside linebackers, but they have experience with a guy that has been with this team for the majority of his 75-year career here in Denver. But then you also have, right, but then you have Drew Sanders, who all we talked about when he was drafted was his athletic ability, sideline to sideline. Guy can tackle. Guy can rush the passer. That, to me, is my only question, because I like their options who will be starting, which will be Dre Greenlaw, obviously, and Alex Singleton. If these two guys, talking about the last two guys that I mentioned, perform to basically how they performed for the majority of their careers, then it's a watch out. However, they do have depth at that position.
They do.
But that is still an unknown right now, how those two guys look, because we haven't seen it.
Right.
You know, safety room, yeah, you always wish the safety room could be better. You can say that about any position group, but I'm pretty confident with Brandon Jones and Tafanga, right?
Yep.
You like the cornerbacks. You like the defensive line, especially with the two rookies who have looked pretty good. And then you throw Tillman in there. So I'm fine there, you know, with the defensive, offensive line. What's there to complain about? These guys always seem to play together. They've upgraded at the tight end position. They got their J.K. Dobbins, their veteran in the room. Wide receiver seems to have depth. Oh, and shit, they got a punter too in Crawshaw, and I'm watching him earlier this week. And besides for one shank, which I started to chuckle because it was the first punt I watched him have.
His first one is always somewhat questionable. After that, boom.
Well, that's not good, because that means I hope that's not a history for him.
Well,
that he goes all Sean Landetta, Giants, Bears, division game in 1986.
Well done. Thank you for the Sean Landetta reference. Yeah. We appreciate it.
Yeah. You know, you don't want his first punt to be bad and then he's good throughout. But the funny thing is, his next punt, the ball was at I think the 50 or 45-yard line on the other side of the field, and he kicked it. Great hang time to the 1.
Yeah. He has touch along with the cannon.
Yeah.
That's a rare combination, but he does have that touch. It's been fun watching him. And he doesn't get a lot of headlines. He never works during the shooting periods for local photographers. So you don't get to see him very much, because there's only a certain amount of time that guys are allowed to shoot video. So you don't see him a lot. But he is one of those guys that when you are there and they get into special teams, you actually kind of anxiously await him doing his work, because he just can pound the football. And he's and it's notable. He's the only punter in camp. They've already made up their mind on that. Now, maybe they'll bring in someone to push him a little bit in the summer. I doubt it.
Yeah.
I think they've got their guy. But, man, that dude is I'll just say it. He's a difference maker.
Real quick, we don't have a lot of time left.
Sure.
I don't mean to be speaking out of school and violating a private, intimate conversation, but I was talking to your executive producer, Dave Althouse, following practice earlier this week, and he said, I really don't know what we're going to cover over the next 5.5 weeks. So, what are you guys at Fox 31 going to cover for the next 5.5 weeks?
I'm glad you asked, Eric. Obviously, for me, it's not
Yeah.
that big of an issue because I've got probably 2 weeks of Broncos
Vacation
stuff.
time?
No, I've got 2 weeks of Broncos stuff that we have compiled.
Yeah.
And so that'll be kind of my little area. One of the weeks I'm gone.
Yeah.
So now I am 3.5 weeks into trying to figure out, and then I only have 2 weeks that I kind of got to make it up.
Right.
But I think it's a question that dogs all, and it's a rare question to ask yourself in Denver because there's always so much going on. The problem is the Rockies are, well, the Rockies. And so you got to kind of find ways to tell some stories. So we haven't even talked about the U.S. Open. And so, I mean, so we'll have a little golf and there's some Colorado flavor to the various tournaments that go on.
I have an idea.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah.
Why don't you set up a playground at Burnham Park and think about what kind of things you could do with that land?
What do you think about that location? If indeed that's, and what we're talking about is 6 parcels of land. I think the number is 6 have already been bought up by Broncos Connection, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Whatever that means.
You can always hide behind an LLC.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But what do you think about the location?
It's still in Denver.
I kind of like the location.
I'm fine with it.
I think it's good. So
all I care about is traffic. What's the traffic look like?
I mean, the one thing I didn't want to do, I don't think I was wild about Parker. I don't think I was wild about Commerce City or anything like that. Not that that was ever seriously discussed. I don't think.
Right.
The Broncos are so synonymous with downtown that I think you've got to be at least true to that.
Here's one way to put it. Okay. This tells you a lot about this ownership group. It makes perfect sense to me if they wanted to find a location near the airport. Makes perfect sense to me if they wanted to find a location in Parker. Let's look at this ownership group that clearly has a few bucks in its pocket. Let's look at the San Francisco 49ers. How inconvenient is it for 49ers fans to have to drive all the way to Santa Clara? I get it. It's smart business that you want to find cheap land. I get that. That makes sense to me. Excuse me for saying this, but it's a podcast. The Penners have fuck you money, and they can stay and go wherever they want to. And they're doing what the fans want. But a lot of owners are going to be looking at the bottom line. Where can I buy cheap land? Look, San Antonio Spurs. I can't tell you much about their ownership group, but what I can tell you, it's a little bit of a trip because they bought cheap land where they built that arena.
Yeah.
And look, for Jerry Jones, who has FU money, I don't notice a stadium in downtown Dallas.
Nope.
It's out in Arlington.
Yep.
Texas Rangers.
There, right.
Arlington. They went for the money move. Good for them. They have every right to do it. The reason why they have millions and billions is because they make smart business decisions.
Yep. True.
They want to save every penny that they can because, oh, by the way, the stadium is going to cost a few dollars. For the Penners, they want to do what's best for the fans. They want to keep it in Denver. And we are fortunate. I'm not saying this to kiss ass. We're fortunate to have them.
Oh, my goodness.
And
absolutely.
You know what? Say whatever you want to about Stan Kroenke and Josh Kroenke. They brought a couple of titles to town, all right? And I understand, salary caps and second aprons and first aprons and things like that. They're building around Pepsi Center.
Yep.
They're building around Ball Arena. They're making it an area. They're not moving.
Nope.
We have 2 great sets of owners here, not named Monfort. Make it the best possible weekend you can.
Oh.